Football at its core is a simple game. 22 players compete to win against their opponents for 90 minutes. And most likely at the end of it, we argue about an offside. A toe here, a shoulder there, one blurry VAR freeze frame that looks like the lines were drawn at 45 degrees. And suddenly half the fan base thinks the world is out to get them. Here's the kicker. What if I told you this messy little rule? This rule, responsible for every pub argument in history, has been rewritten, reimagined, and sometimes straight up improvised for more than 160 years? And what if I also told you that the first version of offside basically made passing illegal? Yes, illegal. Like contraband. Welcome to the long, weird history of the offside rule. Welcome to Football Explained. To understand the offside rule, we have to go back to the 1860s, a time when men wore hats taller than modern center backs, and football was played by people who thought dribbling the entire length of the pitch by yourself was the height of tactical genius. That's right. Sit down, Pep. The very first official offside rule in 1863 basically said, if you're in front of the ball, you're a criminal. Okay, that's not a literal quote, but it might as well be. You could not be ahead of the ball. The only legal forward pass was backwards. So yes, early football was essentially rugby with your feet. Wait, this isn't Rugby Explained. So what happened? Well, let's look at the first significant change. This one is a doozy. In 1866, the FA softened the rule a bit and said, all right, fine, you can be ahead of the ball, but you need 3 defenders between you and the goal. 3 defenders, not 2, not 1, 3. Why 3? Because Victorian gentlemen absolutely hated the idea of goal hanging. To them, standing near the opponent's goal waiting for the ball was basically cheating, like camping a spawn point in Call of Duty, but with shin pads. So instead of encouraging creativity, they built a rule that encouraged cardio, lots of cardio. Victorian footballers were running more than modern midfielders, for a short while anyway. With the 3-defender rule in place, teams slowly discovered that passing wasn't witchcraft. It was actually useful. This gave birth to what historians call the combination game. Combination game is a very dramatic name for we realize teamwork exists. But even with this innovation, football was still cramped, congested, like morning traffic but with hooped socks. And so, the rule kept evolving. Which brings us to one of the biggest plot twists in football history. In 1925, IFAB, football's lawmakers and part-time chaos agents, decided that 3 defenders was too many, so they reduced it to 2 defenders. This may sound like a small tweak, but it was the football equivalent of giving every striker a caffeine boost and telling defenders, good luck lol. Goals exploded. Scoring went up by over 1,600 goals in one season in England. Formations changed overnight. Herbert Chapman invented the WM formation, which sounds like a meal deal but was actually revolutionary. This was the single most impactful rule change in football history. It turned a dribbling sport into a passing sport. It turned defenders into tacticians. It turned attackers into legends. And it gave future commentators a lifetime supply of things to complain about. After 1925, changes came frequently. Much like in the early 1900s, which lead to the 3 and 2 defenders rule. These mini changes would eventually evolve into something very significant and very subjective. Football introduced the idea of interfering with play, aka, you're offside, but only if you're actually doing something suspicious, which is honestly a rule we should apply to more things in life. This created the modern distinction, being offside versus committing an offside offense. This was meant to reduce confusion, which of course means it made things more confusing. Ask any defender. The only thing worse than the offside rule is the conversation explaining said rules. In 1990, IFAB introduced a rule that seemed so logical it almost felt illegal. If you're level with the defender, you're onside. Simple, clean, fair, elegant. Yes, football had 127 years of confusing nonsense before someone said, wait, what if being tied didn't count as losing? This made attacking easier. It encouraged through balls. It made the game faster. And it reduced those microscopic offside calls. Temporarily. Oh boy, it's time. You've been waiting for it. I've been dreading it. It's the system you love to hate. The one, the only. Yup, that's right. In 2016, the trials of VAR began, and football entered a new era, the age of geometrically precise heartbreak. VAR was supposed to clarify things. Instead, we got offside decisions based on the attacker's toenail, the attacker's sleeve seam, the defender teetering slightly forward. Football has never been more mathematical. Somewhere, a Victorian gentleman is watching a VAR offside line and thinking, this is exactly what we wanted. Controversies exploded. Games slowed down. Fans lost their minds. But just when we thought VR was already complicated enough, football said, hold my algorithm, and introduced semi-automated offside technology. This system uses 12 tracking cameras, 29 data points per player, and a sensor inside the match ball that sends information 500 times per second, which is a lot. That's more data than my phone uses when I'm trying to watch YouTube in HD. We have officially entered an era where the ball knows more about your position than your fullback does. The technology works like this. Cameras track every limb that can legally score a goal. The ball emits data faster than my brain can process it. A fancy 3D model gets generated. VAR gets a nice clean graphic that looks like something from a Marvel movie. The referee still gets blamed anyway. Seriously, Sayat can make a decision in half a second, which means the only thing slowing down modern football is modern football. The idea is to make offsides faster, more accurate, less subjective, and ideally reduce the number of fans shouting at the TV. It has succeeded in exactly two of those goals. Accuracy, 10 out of 10. Speed, excellent. Stopping arguments, 0 out of 10. In fact, it might have actually made arguments more high-tech. Now, people aren't just yelling, they're yelling about polygons. But it does solve one big issue. It removes the human guesswork from drawing lines. No more, the camera angle was weird. No more, his shoulder pixel is ahead of that other shoulder pixel. Now it's, the computer said no. We've basically replaced assistant referees with RoboCop, and honestly, I'm not sure that's a downgrade. Still, the biggest criticism remains. It is too precise. It doesn't care about intent. It doesn't care about advantage. It only cares about geometry, which is why debates about daylight and common sense officiating have gotten louder than ever. Now that may have been an improvement, but it still hasn't solved the ultimate problem. What does an ideal and exciting offside rule look like? How does the game grow and change as it always has? Arsène Wenger, legendary manager and part-time football philosopher, proposed a new idea. The attacker should be onside if any part of their body is level with the defender, meaning there must be clear daylight between attacker and defender to call offside. This is basically the football version of innocent until proven guilty. And honestly, given some of the VAR lines I've seen, that sounds refreshing. This would favor attackers again, just like 1925 did. It could lead to more goals, more chaos, and more defenders' warped faces yelling at the ref cam. What's not to like? So what have we learned? The offside rule started as basically no fun allowed, evolved through decades of trial and error, shaped tactics, strategy, and the entire identity of football, and it still drives everyone insane. And that is tradition. But now I want to hear from you. If you could rewrite the offside rule tomorrow, would you go for the Wenger daylight rule? Would you keep VAR as it is? Would you scrap the whole concept and unleash absolute chaos? Because if football has taught us anything, it's that the simplest game in the world can be made very, very complicated. Thank you for taking your time to watch the little recap. This has been Football Explained. I've been your host, Jay, and we will see you in the next one. Oh, not you, Pep. You can stay seated. Goodbye. For anyone still here, I'd just like to thank you all for watching this new venture back into YouTube. As a kid, I spent so much time doing FIFA videos and enjoyed them so much, but with life and work, I was never able to continue the passion. With my family now, I don't get as much time to play FIFA or do that, so I have decided to go a lot more relaxed and video essay-like. If this video gets a good reception, I'll begin the process of making more detailed and in-depth videos with more custom footage. I look forward to having some fun again and resuming my creative passion and my love for footy. All the best!